Your first night at Rikers Island, you will be tested, not by the guards, not by the system, by the inmates who've been waiting for fresh meat to walk through those doors. This is Rikers Island. For 113 acres in the East River, 10 separate jail facilities, 6,000 men, and women locked inside at any given moment. And 86% of them haven't even been convicted of a crime. They're just waiting for trial, waiting because they can't afford bail, waiting in one of the most violent jails in America. Where survival isn't guaranteed and violence isn't just coming, it's the currency. In 2024, there were over 1,100 violent incidents at Rikers. That's 3 assaults every single day. Stabbings, slashings, beatings so severe that victims suffer traumatic brain injuries. And 14 people died. But here's what you need to understand. At Rikers, violence isn't random. It's structured. It's organized. It's governed by rules that exist outside the law. There are rules about who you can talk to. Rules about where you can sit. Rules about what you wear, how you walk, who you look at. Break these rules, and you might not make it out alive. This is the story of what really happens at Rikers Island. Not the statistics. Not the press releases, but the brutal reality of survival in a place where violence decides who lives and who doesn't. Welcome to Rikers Island, where your life depends on learning the rules before someone teaches you the hard way. Your journey to Rikers begins in a Department of Correction bus. You've been arrested, you've been through central booking, and now you're being transported across the East River to a place that everyone in New York City knows by reputation. The bus pulls through 3 separate security checkpoints each one brings you deeper into a world that operates by its own laws. The last gate closes behind you with a sound you'll never forget, the sound of freedom disappearing. Welcome to intake, the bullpen. You'll spend anywhere from 6 hours to 2 days here, waiting to be processed. No phone calls, no food except a stale bologna sandwich, no information about what happens next, just waiting and watching. And here's where survival begins, because everyone in this bullpen is watching you. They're reading you. Where are you from? What neighborhood? What set? What gang? Are you affiliated? Are you a victim? You'll be strip searched not once, but multiple times throughout the intake process, every cavity, every fold of your body looking. For contraband drugs, weapons, phones, it's dehumanizing by design. A reminder that you have no privacy, no dignity, no rights anymore. Then comes the uniform, orange jumpsuit, cheap canvas sneakers that offer no protection in a fight, no belt, no shoelaces. Nothing that could be used as a weapon or to hang yourself, which is a very real concern at Rikers. Now comes the question that might determine whether you live or die. Where should we house you? Rikers has 10 separate jails on the island. Each one has a different reputation. Or in D.C., the Robert and Devorn Complex houses young adults ages 18 to 21. It's the most violent facility on Rikers with the highest rate of stabbings and slashings. Why? Because these are kids trying to prove they're hard, trying to make a name for themselves, trying not to be victims. In just 1 week in August 2023, there were 6 separate stabbings at our NDC, 6 in 7 days, and that's just what was reported. AMK Sienna M. Cross Center is the largest jail at Rikers. Over 2,000 beds across multiple housing units. It's a city within a city with its own power structure, its own economy, its own rules, and like any city, it has good neighborhoods and bad neighborhoods. Getting placed in the wrong housing unit can be a death sentence. Your housing assignment is based on a classification interview, your criminal history, and available bed space. But here's what they don't tell you. That classification system is broken. The counselors are overworked and undertrained. The computer system crashes constantly. And most importantly, they don't know which housing units are controlled by which gangs. So you lie on your classification form. You say you have no gang affiliations, no enemies, no concerns. Because admitting you're affiliated might get you labeled as a problem inmate, might get you placed in protective custody PC where you'll be marked as a snitch for the rest of your time. Better to take your chances in general population, and then you're escorted to your housing. Unit, you walk through corridors that all look the same: industrial, cold, institutional. Other inmates watch you through cell windows as you pass. They're sizing you up already. Fresh meat, new blood. Someone who doesn't know the rules yet. The door opens and you walk into the housing unit that will be your home for the next weeks, months, or years. This is where survival truly begins. A Rikers housing unit is designed to hold 50 to 60 men, 2 tiers of cells surrounding a central day room. This is where you'll spend 23 hours a day if you're lucky, if there's no lockdown, no emergency, no staffing shortage that keeps you locked in your cell for days at a time. And this is where the real education begins. Because a Rikers housing unit isn't just a place to sleep. It's a complex social ecosystem with hierarchies, territories, alliances, and rules that no one explains to you. Your first walk into the day room is the most important moment of your time at Rikers. How you carry yourself, where you look, where you sit. These choices will define how you're treated for your entire stay. The inmates who've been here for months and for years are reading you like a book. They can tell if you've been locked up before by the way you walk. They can tell where you're from by the way you talk. And they can tell if you're going to be a problem or a victim within the first 30 seconds. Rule number 1, nothing is yours until someone says it is. That empty bunk? It's being held for someone else, a friend, a gang member, someone who's in the hospital or in solitary. You can't just claim it. You climb to the upper tier, and now you understand this isn't just a housing unit. It's a territory divided among groups you can't see yet, but can definitely feel. Here is what you can't see, but absolutely must learn. A housing unit is divided into invisible territories. Certain tables belong to certain gangs. Certain phones. Certain shower times. And violating these boundaries even accidentally can get you stabbed. Former inmate interview. First day I got there, I sat at the wrong table. Didn't know it was a problem. This dude comes over, says, "You from around here?" I said, "Nah, I'm from Brooklyn." He says, "Then why you sitting at a Bronx table?" I moved real quick, because the look in his eyes said this was my one warning. Movement happens 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening. Cell doors unlock, and you have 3 hours to shower, make phone calls, watch TV, eat, socialize. But even this freedom is structured. There's an order to everything. Showers are the most. Danger is placed in the housing unit. You're naked, vulnerable, can't run, can't fight effectively. Which is why you never shower alone. You bring a lookout, someone who watches the entrance while you wash as fast as humanly possible. 3 minutes max. Get in, get clean, get out. In 2023, there were 48 documented shower attacks at Rikers, 48. And those are just the ones that were reported. Many victims don't report because snitching is worse than getting beaten. The phone is a lifeline to the outside world. But it's also a flashpoint for violence. Everyone wants more time. Everyone needs to make that one more call. And when someone goes over their 10 minutes, tensions rise fast. Begging someone to put money on your commissary account so you can buy soap, deodorant, snacks, the basics that the jail doesn't provide or provides in such poor quality they're unusable. He takes that position through respect, fear, connections, and sometimes through sheer violence. The shot caller has privileges. He chooses his bunk. He controls access to the phones. He gets extra commissary through donations, which aren't really donations when refusing might get. You're hurt, and most importantly, he controls the violence. The shot caller usually has outside gang connections. He's affiliated with Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, Trinitarios, or one of the dozens of other gangs that operate in New York City. His gang set on the outside determines his power on the inside. Former gang-affiliated inmate. Interview. If you're official, like really official with your set, people know, word travels fast. In there, they know what you did on the streets, who you're connected to, what your reputation is. That gets you respect automatically. Or it makes you a target if you're beefing with the wrong people. Gang meetings happen every day in the day room. They look casual, just friends talking. But these meetings are where decisions get made. Who gets checked? Who gets robbed? Who gets hurt? And who gets protected? Getting checked is inevitable. Someone will test you. They'll start an argument over nothing. You looked at them wrong. You sat in their seat. You use their phone. It doesn't matter what the excuse is. What matters is how you respond. If you back down, you're marked as a victim. They'll take your commissary, your sneakers, your food. They'll make you send out, force you to have family on the outside send money to their families. It's extortion, and it happens every single day at Rikers. But if you stand up, even if you lose, they'll fight you in a level of respect. They know you're not an easy target. And in Rikers, not being easy is sometimes enough. Some inmates can't survive in general population. Maybe they snitched on someone. Maybe they're a former gang member who dropped a flag. Maybe they're just too weak to defend themselves. These inmates go into protective custody PC. They're safe there, but they're also labeled as snitchies for life. Former PC inmate interview. I had to PC up. I had enemies from the streets in my unit, and they were planning to get me. The CO told me straight up, you stay in Gen Pop, you're not making it out alive. So I checked into PC. Saved my life. But now I can't go back to my neighborhood. Everyone knows I PC'd up. They think I'm a snitch even though I never told on nobody. That's my life now. Communication is everything at Rikers, and it happens through Kite's small handwritten notes passed hand to hand. Kites carry orders from gang leaders, warnings about informants, plans for attacks. And they rain nearly impossible for guards to intercept because they race so small and change hands. So quickly, kites are written in code, gang slang, street language, references that only insiders understand. To a correctional officer, it might look like gibberish, but to the intended recipient, it's a crystal clear order. And when that kite results in violence, a stabbing, a beating, a disciplinary action against someone who broke gang rules, no one saw anything, no one knows. Anything, because at Rikers, snitching is worse than murder. Rikers has its own economy, and like any economy, it runs on currency. But here, currency isn't dollars, it's commissary. Ramen noodles, honey buns, mackerel packets. These items have established values and can be traded for anything. A single ramen soup is worth about $1 in Rikers currency, a honey bun $2, a mackerel packet $5. And these items can buy you anything: phone time, protection, drugs, weapons, even sex. Gambling is constant cards, sports, even chess. Inmates bet their commissary, and when they lose, they have to pay. If they can't pay, they have to options. Have someone on the outside send money to the winner's family or get hurt. Lose too much and you're in debt. And debt at Rikers doesn't just affect you, it affects your family. Winners expect losers to have money sent to their families on the outside. It's called a wire. And refusing to wire money is grounds for a serious beating. And this is how Rikers destroys families. The inmate calls home begging for money to pay gambling debts. The mother, girlfriend, or wife already struggling to pay rent and feed kids has to come up with $200, $300, $500 to send to a stranger's Cash App, because if she doesn't, her son or boyfriend or husband gets stabbed. Then there's the drug economy. K2 synthetic marijuana is everywhere at Rikers. It's smuggled in by corrupt guards, visitors, and through drones that drop packages over the fence. A piece of K2 soaked paper the size of a business card can be sold for $200 in commissary. K2 overdoses happen almost daily at Rikers. Inmates smoke it, and within seconds they're seizing on the floor. Some die, some suffer permanent brain damage. But the drug keeps coming in because the demand is infinite and the profit margins are massive. Former correctional officer interview. Some COs bring it in. Not all of them, but enough. The smuggling network at Rikers is sophisticated. Corrupt guards, visitors who hide contraband in body cavities, drones dropping packages over the fence in the middle of the night. And the packages contain everything: drugs, phones, chargers, weapons. Even pornography printed on regular paper to avoid detection. But the most valuable contraband at Rikers isn't drugs, it's cell phones. A working smartphone can sell for $5,000 to $10,000 in commissary. Why? Because it gives you power. Unmonitored calls to the outside, access to social media, the ability to coordinate hits, intimidate witnesses, or run your criminal enterprise from your cell. And with those phones, inmates post on social media from inside Rikers: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. They post videos from their cells. They live stream from the day room. They taunt the system that's supposed to be controlling them. It's brazen, it's illegal, and it happens every single day. In 2024, federal prosecutors indicted multiple Rikers inmates for running fraud schemes from inside the facility, romance scams, cryptocurrency frauds, identity theft. They made hundreds of thousands of dollars while locked up, using contraband phones that guards couldn't find or chose not to find. Guards conduct regular shakedown surprise searches of cells. They tear the place apart looking for phones, drugs, and weapons, and they find them. But for every phone they confiscate, 3 more are already in the facility. It's a losing battle. Weapons are everywhere at Rikers. Shanks made from sharpened toothbrushes, razors melted into soap bars, locks and socks sharpened. Plastic utensils. Anything can become a weapon when you have time, motivation, and the knowledge that you might need to defend yourself at any moment. And making a weapon is easy. Take a plastic toothbrush. Grind it against the concrete floor for hours until it's sharp as an ice pick. Wrap the handle with cloth for grip. Now you have a shank. It won't set off metal detectors. It can be hidden in a book, under a mattress, even inside your body. And it can kill someone. Shank attacks are designed to inflict maximum damage. Multiple stab wounds. Targeting the neck, torso, inner thighs, anywhere major arteries run close to the skin. The goal isn't just to hurt someone. It's to kill them or disable them so completely they'll never be a threat again. Violence at Rikers happens fast. An argument escalates in seconds. Punches turn into a full-scale assault. And by the time guards respond, someone is on the ground bleeding or worse. Assault victim interview. I got into it with dude over the TV. Stupid shit. He wanted to watch basketball. I wanted to watch the news. Next thing I know, I'm on the floor and like 6 Judes are stomping me. I woke up in the hospital 3 days later, fractured skull, broken jaw, loss for teeth over a TV channel. The medical unit at Rikers treats assault injuries every single day, broken bones. Lacerations, traumatic brain injuries, stab wounds, but many inmates don't report their injuries. They tough it out because going to medical means filing an incident report. And filing a report means snitching. So they suffer in silence. Then there are slashings. Unlike stabbings, which are meant to kill, slashings are meant to disfigure. A razor across the face. A sharp piece of metal dragged across the neck or arms. The scars are permanent, a lifelong reminder of whatever you did to deserve it. In 2024, there were 247 slashing incidents at Rikers. That's up from 201 the year before, and 178 the year before that. Violence at Rikers isn't decreasing, it's escalating, and nobody seems able to stop it when a slashing happens. The entire housing unit goes on lockdown, everyone confined to cells, investigators arrive, but they get nowhere because nobody talks, even the victim usually refuses to cooperate. I didn't see who did it. It happened too fast. I don't want to press charges, because cooperating with investigators is snitching, and snitching gets you killed. But the worst violence at Rikers is gang on gang, when the rival sets are housed in the same unit. Violence is inevitable. Bloods versus Crips, Latin Kings versus Trinitarios. These aren't random fights, they're planned, coordinated attacks, and they turn housing units into war zones. Gang hits are planned days in advance. Who's the target? When will it happen? Who's doing it? What weapons will be used? These plans circulate through kites. Whispered conversations, encoded messages, and correctional officers often don't know until it's too late. And when the hit goes down, it's over in seconds, multiple attackers, multiple weapons. The victim has no chance, and by the time guards respond, the attackers have already hidden their weapons and disappeared into the general population. NYPD detectives investigate serious assaults at Rikers, but they're fighting an uphill battle, no. Witnesses, no cooperation. Security footage that's often too grainy or poorly angled to identify attackers, and a culture of silence that's enforced with violence. Some attackers face additional criminal charges: assault, attempted murder, even murder if the victim dies, but convicting them is nearly impossible without witnesses. And at Rikers, witnesses don't exist. Now let's talk about the correctional officers. Because understanding violence at Rikers means understanding that the people who are supposed to control it are overwhelmed, understaffed, and often just trying to survive their shift. Rikers is supposed to have 9,000 correctional officers. As of 2024, they have about 6,200. That's a vacancy rate of 31%. Nearly one-third of positions are unfilled. And the officers who remain are working double shifts, mandatory overtime, and burning out at record rates. Correctional officer interview, I'm responsible for 75 inmates by myself. 75. If something pops off, I call for backup and maybe someone shows up in 5 minutes. 5 minutes is forever when you've got inmates fighting with shanks. I've been assaulted 3 times this year, punched, spit on, had feces thrown at me. And I can't quit because I need the benefits and the pension, so I come back every day knowing I might not make it home. Assaults on correctional officers have skyrocketed. In 2024, there were over 400 documented attacks on staff at Rikers. That's more than 1 assault per day. Broken jaws, broken orbital bones, concussions, and those are just the physical injuries. The psychological toll is immeasurable. The suicide rate among correctional officers is the highest of any profession in law. Enforcement, higher than police, higher than firefighters, because the job is relentless. The danger is constant, and the support is non-existent. And here's the crisis that's breaking Rikers: officers going aid or absent without leave. On any given day, 35% of scheduled officers don't show up for work. They call in sick. They just don't come, and the officers who do show up are forced to cover the missing shifts, which means mandatory overtime. Officers who just worked a 16-hour shift are told they have to stay for another 8 hours. They're exhausted, they're angry. And they're remaking mistakes because humans can't function at peak performance when they V-bend. Awake for 24 hours. And exhausted officers make mistakes. They miss contraband during searches. They don't notice inmates passing kites. They fail to recognize when violence is about to erupt. And those mistakes get people hurt, inmates and officers alike. The Correctional Officers Union says the city has abandoned them. They're working in a war zone, getting assaulted, forced to work. Endless overtime, and receiving no support from administrators who they believe prioritize inmate rights over officer safety. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Some correctional officers are part of the problem. In 2023, 17 Rikers officers were arrested on corruption charges, smuggling drugs, smuggling phones, taking bribes from gangs, and in some cases, sexually abusing inmates. Sexual abuse victim interview. She was a CO. She had power over everything: my commissary, my phone time, whether I got written up or not. She started making comments, then touching me, and demanding sexual acts. I couldn't say no. Who was I going to tell? Who would believe an inmate over a CO? So it kept happening until she got transferred. I still have nightmares. Sexual abuse at Rikers is widespread and underreported. The Justice Department found that staff sexual misconduct was happening at alarming rates. But officers rarely face consequences because the system protects its own. And when inmates file complaints about officer brutality, those complaints are investigated by the officer's own supervisors. 97% of brutality complaints at Rikers are dismissed as unfounded. The system investigates itself, and the system always finds itself innocent. Now let's talk about the people who didn't survive Rikers, because behind every statistic is a name, a face, a family who will never get answers about why their loved one died in custody. Since 2019, 69 people have died at Rikers Island. That's nearly 1 death per month. And in 2024 alone, 14 people died, nearly triple the number from the previous year. Annibal Carrasquillo was 37 years old when he died at Rikers on November 1st. 2024, he was in custody for a parole violation, a technical violation, not a new crime. 4 days later, he was dead from an apparent drug overdose. His family says he was clean when he entered, which means he got drugs inside Rikers. And when he overdosed, no one helped him in time. Annibal's mother press conference. My son called me 3 days before he died. He said he was scared. He said people were threatening him. He begged me to get him out. I told him I was trying, that I was working on his bail. But I didn't have the money. And now he's gone. My baby is gone because I couldn't afford $3,000. Mary Yehuda was 43 years old. A transgender woman housed in a male facility at Rikers despite her gender identity. She complained repeatedly about harassment and violence. Those complaints were ignored. She died on February 19th, 2024. The city says natural causes. Her family says she was killed by a system that didn't care if she lived or died. And Mary isn't the only transgender person to die at Rikers. There have been multiple deaths of LGBTQ inmates who were placed in facilities that didn't match their gender identity, where they faced constant danger from other inmates and indifference from staff. Suicide is the leading cause of death at Rikers. 5 people took their own lives in 2024. Some were in mental observation units supposedly monitored 24/7 to prevent exactly this, but staff falsified records, claiming they checked on inmates when they didn't, and people died while guards lied about doing their jobs. Curtis Davis, 44 years old, was found dead in his cell on July 23rd, 2023. The officer responsible for checking on him admitted to falsifying logs signing off on rounds he never actually made. If that officer had done his job, Curtis might have been saved instead. He died alone while a guard lied about checking on him. Then there are the medical neglect. Deaths, inmates dying of treatable conditions, diabetes, asthma, infections because they can't get proper medical care. They file sick call requests that are ignored, they beg guards for help and are told to wait. And by the time medical staff finally responds, it's too late. From a medical staff interview, we were so understaffed, 1 nurse for 200 inmates. We had people with serious medical conditions who needed specialized care that we couldn't provide. I saw people suffer and die from things that should have been easily treatable, but there were just too many patients and not enough resources, and when I raised concerns, I was told to just do the best I could, but my best wasn't good enough to save them. And the families of the dead keep demanding answers, demanding accountability, demanding that anyone be held responsible for these deaths. But the Department of Correction investigates itself. The city settles lawsuits without admitting wrongdoing. And nothing fundamentally changes. November 2024, after nearly a decade of failed reforms, a federal judge made a historic decision that shocked New York City. Judge Laura Taylor Swain ruled that New York City was in contempt of court for failing to comply with a 2015 federal consent decree and agreement meant to reduce violence and improve conditions at Rikers. For 9 years, the city had promised reforms. For 9 years, those reforms failed to materialize, and Judge Swain was done waiting in a 65-page contempt order. Judge Swain detailed everything that's wrong with Rikers: violence at all-time highs, staff going AWOL in record numbers, deaths increasing, and a Department of Correction that seems either unable or unwilling to fix the crisis. And then Judge Swain took the next step. She indicated she was prepared to appoint a federal receiver, someone who would take control of Rikers away from New York City entirely. A federal receiver would have authority beyond any city official. They could hire and fire whoever they wanted. They could implement new policies without city approval. They could demand funding and override budget constraints. In effect, New York City would lose control of Rikers Island completely. Mayor Eric Adams, a former police officer who promised to restore order to New York City, now presides over a jail so out of control that a federal judge is stripping away local authority. It's a political disaster, and more importantly, it's a human rights catastrophe. The long-term plan has been to close Rikers Island entirely, replace it with 4 smaller jails in each borough. But that plan, announced in 2019 with a 2027 deadline, has been pushed back to 2031, and many believe it will never happen at all. Because here's the problem: everyone agrees Rikers should close. But nobody wants a jail built in their neighborhood. Nobody wants to spend the $15 billion it would cost. And nobody trusts that new jails won't just become new Rikers, different buildings, same problems, and meanwhile, Rikers continues to operate. 6,000 people locked inside right now, most of them legally innocent, just waiting for trial, waiting in conditions that violate their constitutional rights, waiting in a facility that the federal government has declared unsafe, but waiting nonetheless, because the system doesn't know what else to do with them. So if you find yourself at Rikers arrested, unable to make bail, Waiting for a court date that might be months away, how do you survive? Survival rule number 1, mind your business rule number 1, mind your business. Don't watch fights. Don't ask questions. Don't get involved in other people's drama, whatever's happening around. You didn't see it. You don't know anything about it. Eyes forward, mouth shut. Survival rule number 2, respect the hierarchy. Rule number 2, respect the hierarchy. Find out who runs your housing unit and introduce yourself. Show respect. Explain where you're from and that you're not looking for trouble. This simple act of deference can prevent a lot of problems. Survival rule number 3, never show weakness. Rule number 3, never show weakness. If someone tries to take your property, you stand firm. If someone disrespects you, you check them back. You might take a beating. But you establish that you're not an easy victim, and that matters more than winning individual. Confrontations, survival rule number 4. Choose your friends carefully. Rule number 4, be careful who you trust. Friendships in jail are complicated. Someone might befriend you to rob you, to get information about your case, or to use you as a pawn in gang politics. Real friends are rare at Rikers. Most relationships are alliances of convenience. Survival rule number 5, avoid debt. Rule number 5, don't gamble, don't borrow, don't lend. Debt at Rikers is dangerous. If you owe someone and can't pay, you're facing either violence or having to extract money from your struggling family on the outside. Neither option is worth it. Survival rule number 6, never snitch. Rule number 6, never snitch, ever, even if you're the victim of an assault. You tell investigators you didn't see who did it. You handle your problems yourself or you let them go. But you never, ever cooperate with authorities, because at Rikers, snitchies get killed. Survival rule number 7, keep your head down. Rule number 7, the best way to survive Rikers is to be invisible. Don't make noise. Don't draw attention. Don't try to be the toughest or the coolest or the most connected. Just be quiet. Do your time and hope your court date comes before something happens that you can't avoid. So what have we learned about Rikers Island? We've learned that Rikers is a place where violence isn't random, it's structured, organized, and governed by rules that have nothing to do with justice. We've learned that 86% of the people locked up at Rikers haven't been convicted of any crime. They're just too poor to afford bail. And while they wait for justice, they are subjected to conditions that the United Nations calls torture and a federal judge has deemed unconstitutional. We've learned that Rikers doesn't just destroy the people locked inside, it destroys families. Children lose parents, families lose income, communities lose neighbors, and all of it happens before anyone has been proven guilty of anything. We've learned that after nearly a decade of federal oversight, Rikers has only gotten worse. Violence is up. Deaths are up. And a federal judge has been forced to consider stripping the city of control over its own jail system because the city has proven it cannot manage basic human rights. We've learned that. Rikers is supposed to close, but supposed to isn't. The same as will, and while politicians debate timelines and budgets, real people are living through hell right now, today, this moment. And we've learned that survival at Rikers isn't about innocence or guilt. It's about being tough. Enough, smart enough, and lucky enough to make it through each day until you're finally released, changed, traumatized, but alive. Rikers Island will operate today and tomorrow and the day after that. New buses will cross that bridge carrying people who can't afford bail. And those people will enter a system where violence decides who lives and who doesn't. This is Rikers Island. This is American justice, and until we fundamentally change how we approach per trial, detention, bail, and incarceration, nothing will change. Rikers Island remains open. 6,000 people are locked inside right now. 86% have not been convicted of any crime. Will you be next? If you or someone you know is incarcerated at Rikers Island, Legal Aid Society, Criminal Defense, 212-577-3300 or the Bronx Defenders, 718-838-78878 Brooklyn Defender Services, 718-540-7004. Families needing support. Our Children's Support for Incarcerated Mothers, OurChildren.org, the Osborne Association Reentry Services, Osborne and Weiss.org to support bail funds, the Brooklyn Community Bail Fund, Brooklyn Bail Fund, org the Bail Project, bailproject.org to advocate for reform. Hashtag Close Rikers campaign. CloseRikers.org, just leadership use. Just leadershipusa.org. Subscribe for more investigations exposing the realities of America's criminal justice system. Share this video if you believe Rikers Island must be closed.